Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. In this very video you are going to be learning how to make this beautiful A-shaped gown with a flare sleeve. So it's very simple and easy to learn. If this is what you would love to learn, please stay tuned until the end of this tutorial. Now we are going to be folding our fabric on bias, and once you fold on bias, you would notice that there is this kind of extra that will come out. I don't know, although you know how to fold your fabric on bias, just fold it that way and cut off the excess. After you cut off the excess, you're going to mark out the starting line. So this starting line, we are going to be using it as our shoulder line, and from this line you're going to mark your bust point, the waistline, the hip line, and then the length of the gown. Now the length of my gown is 38 inches and I need 2 inches for my hemming. You can make use of 1.5, it depends on your preference. Now from there you're going to have to connect all your lines so that you won't get yourself confused while taking your body measurements. After this, the next step is to divide your shoulder measurement into two and then mark it out. My shoulder is 15 inches, so I have 7.5 inches plus my half inch for joining to the sleeve. From that shoulder line again, you come down by 9 inches. This is half of my armhole measurement, and you connect back into the shoulder line. Now you're going to have to measure what you have in between that line and then find out the middle. From the shoulder line again, come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope, and then from here you're going to mark your neck measurement that you need. So I'm going to be making use of 3.5 inches by 8 inches for my front neckline. So I want my front neckline to be a V neckline. I'm going to connect from my neck width down to the neck depth, okay? But I don't want this neck depth to be kind of a straight V, so I'm going to divide that measurement by 2. Note the middle line and then go out by half an inch just for my V neckline to widen a little. Okay, I hope you understood me. So I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect into the neck width. Now at least my V neckline can be a little bit wider. So go ahead and connect your shoulder slope into the neck, and we have our front neckline. Now the next step is for you to divide your body measurements. So I'm dividing my bust measurements by 4 and I will mark it out. My bust measurement is 42 inches. Divide it by 4. Note what you have. Add 1 inch for ease plus 1 inch for stitching allowance. Now connect that all the way to the hem, and then you mark out your armhole curve. This is it. We are done with the front, and you're going to go ahead and cut it off. And once you're done with this, you're going to go ahead and use this front to cut out the back. Now for you to get your length properly well, you're going to have to place your tape right at the shoulder, and then you know that this is like an A-shaped gown which is cut on bias. So if you do it If you leave it this way, the length is not going to be equal. So to make it equal, you're going to place your tape right at your shoulder and then rotate your tape, marking out the length of your gown round, just as you can see me doing like this. So after you mark it out, you're going to have to cut it out. Now we are done with the front. We're going to use this front to cut out our back. Our back is not kind of very difficult, so all you have to do is to fold another fabric and use this front to cut out the back. The only difference is that the back neckline is going to be 1 inch depth and then the same width for the front. So I've placed my front on another fabric, also folded on bias, and for the back I'm not going to be having any zip allowance. And then I went ahead to cut out the neck line. So my neck is 1.5 inches in depth and the same width as the front neck. Okay, so after you are done, you're going to have to cut it out, and this is what you should have. Now this is the front. You can see that the front comes in V neckline and the back is just a circular neckline. Now after this, you are going to have to cut out facing for this. You can as well make use of a bias, but I prefer to use a facing. Okay, so facing is very easy to cut out. What you have to do is to fold your fabric into two and then place your neckline on top of the folded fabric, just as you can see me doing like this, making sure that the folded part is facing the folded parts. Okay, and first off, you are going to have to cut off the neck and then the shoulder. Now after you cut the neck and the shoulder, you're going to determine the length that you want for your facing. So I want mine to be 5 inches, and then right at the shoulder I'm going to measure 3 inches down to the 5 inches that I already cut out. Now after that, you go ahead and cut it out, and this is what you should have. Now you are going to go ahead and cut the back facing just like the front. You're also going to cut out the neck. First off, cut out the neck for the front and then measure the length that you also want for the back facing. So now your back facing can be shorter than the front length. Okay, so my back facing, I'm going to be making it 3 inches, and then also the sides I'm going to be making it 3 inches as well. So I'm going to measure 3 inches all around, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So this is it. This is my back facing, and I also have the front. So what you're going to do is to place your facing on the actual fabric, right side facing each other, and use a pin to hold it down, just to show you how I'm going to go on and sew this. So the next is for me to go right there to my sewing machine, and I will join the front facing and the back facing together. After I join these two facing together, you can see it right here, I've joined them, and I'll have my seam allowance right at the shoulder. So the next thing I'm going to do is to bring in my actual fabric, that is the gown itself, and I'm going to go ahead and use my pin to hold this facing all around my neck, making sure that the shoulder of the facing and the shoulder of my actual fabric is aligning, and then I'll use my pins to hold them down. But before this, you're going to have to go to your serger and weave the rough edges of the facing. So after you weaved it, you're going to have to sew the neckline all around using 1/2 inch, and once you're done, you're going to notch the allowances so as to lay flat once you iron this. So this is what it should look like after you sew this. After sewing with 1/2 inch and you notch it, you're going to also top stitch on top. Okay, so you can see I've weaved this, I've weaved the rough edges. What I will do next is to bring hemming gum, okay, so as to bind the end of the facing and the actual fabric together. And mind you that right now I've actually turned this around to the wrong side, okay, and you know that if you want to sew it, you're going to sew right side facing each other, and you turn over to the wrong side. So that is the wrong side that I'm trying to use my hemming gum to bind them together. So after you are done with that, you are going to put that away, and the next step is to cut out your sleeve. Now I have a detailed tutorial on this channel how to cut a basic sleeve, so you go have a look if you don't know how to draft out your basic sleeve. So what I'm practically doing here is cutting out basic sleeve for this gown. So after I added all my measurements, I went ahead to add 1 inch for my stitching allowance, okay, and then I went ahead to cut out my sleeve. So now I cut just one. I'm going to use this one to cut out the other sleeve. You know we need 2 sleeves for this gown, okay. I've gone ahead to cut it out, and what I'll do next is to measure where I want my flare to start from. So I want it to start right at the biceps measurements, or 2 inches above the elbow. So what I will do is to slightly connect that into that place, but before that you're going to have to remove your sewing allowance, okay. So you can see that I came in by 1 inch before I slightly connected this into the biceps. So now it's time for us to cut out the flare, and to cut out the flare you have to measure all around that place that you just cut out, and then divide whatever you got there by 6.18 to find your radius. So I've gone ahead to find the radius and added the length I need for this flare into it. Now I've gone ahead to cut out my flare, and this is the length. So after cutting out the length, I went ahead to cut out the radius. So next thing is for me to use this to cut out 6 more of this circle, okay, because I need 4 for one part and 4 for the other parts, okay. So I'm using um this actual fabric for both the lining and the actual fabric for the circle, okay. So I'll go ahead and sew my sleeves. The side of my sleeve, I'll go ahead and sew it, and from there I'm going to divide my circle into parts. So I'm going to divide this, so I'll divide 2 and join it as one, and divide the other 2 and join it as one, okay. So that would serve as the actual fabric. Then I'll divide the other four, and that will turn out to be my lining. So this is how I'm going to be joining it. All right, so I'll join two together and join the other two together, meaning that one is going to be in form of my actual fabric and one is going to serve as the lining. So this is it, this is what we have. I'll go ahead and turn this around using my crinoline, but before I do that, I'm going to head over to the serger and weave the rough parts. So you guys, if you don't know how to turn your fabric with a crinoline, I have a detailed tutorial on my channel how to do that. You can go have a look. So I'm going to use my crinoline to turn the fabric and the lining of this circle, and then after we turn this around, this is what we have. Okay, so this is it. I've gone ahead to do it for the two circle, and you can see how wavy this is looking. And you guys, I want to also advise that when you are joining this, please make sure not to stretch to get a very good effect. Okay, so to get your very good wavy effects, you don't have to stretch that. So this is the gown. I'm going to go ahead and fix in my sleeve, but before that, we would have to join our circle, that is the flare, to the sleeve itself. And to join it, you have to open up the underarm. Now from the underarm, that is where you're going to join this flare. So turn this around and place it right side facing each other, and then go ahead and join your flare into the sleeve. So you can see how I open this up. So what next I'm going to do is to rotate this all around until I come out to the other end of it. Okay, and after that, you go ahead and stitch up the allowance. So you guys, this is our gown. You can see how the sleeve is looking. So if you enjoy every bit of this tutorial, please do make sure to give this video a thumbs up. I will see you in my next one. Bye.